My name is Kiera Rowlands. I have been a casual worker working as a member of bar staff at Manchester Arena, a company run by SMG, since February last year. In this video, I am going to look at formal and informal policy within Manchester Arena and critically analyse whether they benefit or hinder the business in comparison to the goals they have. According to Mullins, a policy is developed within the frame of objectives. It details how, where and when in terms of the course of action to be followed to achieve these objectives. What is an informal policy? Informal policies are defined by Eaton as policies which are not official, written down or public, but instead represent individually negotiated private agreements between an employee and his or her supervisor. Also, according to Eaton, formal policies are ones which are approved officially and written down. Meyer and Allen suggest the benefits of policies is that they reduce absenteeism and turnover. Power also suggests that policies allow employees to know what's expected of them, set rules and guidelines, and adopt a consistent and clear response across the company. However, according to Balin et al., research shows an organization's informal culture is more important than formal policies in influencing and shaping employee behaviour. Working at Manchester Arena, I have found that there are many more formal policies than informal. SMG, the company who owns Manchester Arena, are very strict about how they want the business to be run. As a result of this, employees are given an induction where the business's formal policies are explained to them through a PowerPoint presentation. As well as this, each employee is given a handbook to take home which includes all of the policies within the workplace. The policies which I have chosen to critically analyse are the formal policy of mobile phones and the informal policy of locker room duty. Manchester Arena has a formal policy for mobile phones in the workplace. Because Manchester Arena works with high-profile guests, they put large emphasis on their mobile phone policy. According to the Manchester Arena handbook, phones must be in a sealed frosted envelope during the duration of the shift. If an employee is found using their phone during a shift, they will receive a strike. If staff members are seen taking pictures during a shift, they will be sent home or even dismissed. Manchester Arena operates on a three-strike policy. After the 3 strikes, staff members are asked to leave the company. There is a high level of awareness of this formal policy. The reason for this is that at the beginning of each shift, staff are given an envelope which they must put their phone in. This acts as a reminder of the business's policies and reduces the chances of employees using their phone on shift. The Office for National Statistics carried out a survey in which they found only 29% of people said they switch off their phone during work. However, they suggest that the real statistic is much less, at only 6% of the total UK population doing so. A study carried out by Lin et al. On the use of mobile phones in the workplace found that staff had a positive attitude towards using their phone during work, saying the devices included helpful technology which improved the quality of their work. I proposed this idea to a colleague who agreed and explained that if mobile phones were allowed in the arena, staff would benefit as they would be able to use the apps on their phone, such as a calculator, in order to cash up and count stock more efficiently. However, the same study carried out by Lin et al. Found that mobile phones can be a distraction from work and can decrease levels of productivity. Another study carried out by Hussein et al. Found that staff are more satisfied if their phones are with them during work hours, as they feel connected to their relatives. This especially applies to staff at the Manchester Arena, as following the terrorist attack, many staff were left unable to get to their phones in order to get in contact with loved ones and ensure them that they were safe. Morris, 2017, found that on average employee productivity decreases by 8 hours per week through the use of mobile phones. I believe that Manchester Arena's mobile phone policy is effective in reducing the amount of time wasted during work hours. However, the impact of this policy on employees can be negative. Many employees feel it is an inconvenience to have to seal their phone in an envelope and place it in a locked box. Not only this, but following the Manchester Arena bombing in May 2017, many employees feel anxious about having their phones locked away, as they worry that if in the unlikely event something like that would take place again, they would be unable to gain access to their phones in order to let loved ones know that they're safe. I recommend that Manchester Arena continue to require staff to keep their phones in a sealed envelope. However, I believe staff should be allowed to keep their phones in their pocket or bags during shifts so that they are able to gain quick access to their phones in case of an emergency. I believe that this would result in staff feeling less anxious about going to work, improving their outlook on the company and consequently making them more efficient and productive. The informal policy I will be looking at Manchester Arena is locker room duty. Manchester Arena has recently reintroduced the locker room. This is the place where employees' bags and coats are kept. The informal policy is that at the beginning of each shift, the first employee to arrive must be in charge of the locker room. The chosen employee is required to sit in the locker room and organise it as employees come to drop off their stuff. This is also the case at the end of shifts. Awareness for this policy is relatively low as it has not been formally introduced and is relatively new. As a result of this, staff can be left confused about how the locker room works. The locker room fails to fit Manchester Arena's culture, values and purpose. This is because Manchester Arena's values include providing an experience for its customers while remaining passionate, efficient and productive. However, the introduction of locker room duty has resulted in large amount of time being wasted while employees queue to put their belongings in. Not only this, but employees are more likely to turn up late for work as they do not want to be chosen for locker room duty. According to an article from Talk Business, 48% of UK employees waste 3 hours or more a day working with insufficient systems such as the locker room duty. This costs the average UK business at least £28,000 a year. That's more than the average UK salary for a full-time employee. I do not believe that this policy is effective as it wastes time, and I believe there are other ways which could make this process more efficient. I recommend that Manchester Arena firstly create a more effective system for sorting the locker room, as currently it is very unorganised and often people's belongings become misplaced, adding to the time wasted before employees start to work. Secondly, I recommend Manchester Arena finding an employee who is willing to work in the locker room on every shift. Therefore, they will be able to be trained on what to do, and this will result in the process running more smoothly. Finally, I recommend that the employee chosen should be a ShowSec employee rather than a casual worker. These are Manchester's security and therefore having them would reduce the risk of stolen goods. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed and I welcome any questions you may have.